Okay, everyone. Hello and welcome on this webinar. Myself is Hassan Ahmed, CEO, founder and CEO of Perks HR. Perks HR is an HR and recruitment and consultant serving in this country for last 1 decade. And we have a great profile and portfolio. I've been serving a lot of companies locally and internationally. Today, what we are going to introduce Mohammad Ali Toosy with us. He is basically a Lean Six Sigma black belt, master black belt. He will be introducing by himself as well. And I will be giving this show to him so that he can start the session. Just for an introduction, let me share the timelines. 40 minutes will be the presentation, and the session will be for 40 minutes, and then Q&A session for 20 minutes. If anybody wants to ask question, please raise hands. In the session, please stay tuned with us and ask questions at the end of the session. Although you can write on the chat, but that will be only for the purpose of making it enabled in Q&A session. So Toosy, it is over to you.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Mohammad Ali Toosy. And I usually say, this is Mohammad Ali Toosy, your Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. You might actually wonder what a Master Black Belt is. It's basically an expert level certification. And I will be mentioning within this small session, the different skill sets of Lean Six Sigma. But fortunately, I've reached the expert level. And about me is I'm a trainer and I'm a consultant. And I represent Toosy Advisory Services. I have a collaboration with Perks HR. And at the same time, I'm the country representative of Institute of Change and Transformation Professionals Asia. That's a Pan-Asia professional body, which has recently been made and nearly set up. Now, I would actually go to my presentation, which obviously I would share with Perks HR, and Perks HR would share it with you because they have your information. I guess you all can see it. So what I'm going to do today, I am not going to do, I won't go into the too much detail of Lean Six Sigma. I would give the key points about what it is. First, I've already introduced myself. And after that, I will talk about what organizational effectiveness is. I'll briefly talk about the 6 steps of organizational effectiveness. I will talk about what Lean Six Sigma is, how is it defined, a few definitions, and how Lean Six Sigma can help organizations achieve quantified improvements. 7 things that must be true to develop yourself into a lean leader. Strategic imperative of investing in Lean Six Sigma. I'll be talking about considering the key principles of Lean Six Sigma, the laws of Lean Six Sigma, and the organizational structure for Lean Six Sigma implementations. And a very interesting thing, which is CEOs who succeed with Lean share 3 rare traits. And I will talk about the matrix in the end. What should be the matrix for a successful Lean Six Sigma initiative? Now, Lean Six Sigma is basically organizational effectiveness.
Sorry, somebody wants to say something? Hello? Okay, I think.
Well, I'll just continue. Okay, organizational effectiveness measures how successful organization is in reaching their goals. So whatever the goals are, how successful.
Okay, Toosy, you're unmuted. You can talk.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay,
yeah.
I'm unmuted. Okay, organizational effectiveness is the efficiency of an organization, group, or company can meet its goal, how an organization produces its set of quota of products, how much it wastes it produces, and how efficient it is in the process fall under organizational effectiveness. So it's basically how good you are at what you're supposed to do. That's organizational effectiveness from an organization's perspective. Now, the 6 steps is basically, it's about leadership, it's communication, accountability, delivery, performance, and measurement. Leadership is that you need to have an effective leadership, and the goals have to be clear. In communication, of course, leadership is ineffective as the group's overall communication. So the second step is communication, focusing on spreading the goals, guidelines, and aspirations that drive in leadership. Then there's an accountability. And this is very important. Accountability is basically that project managers and leaders must uphold other employees to their task and responsibility. Then there's basically delivery of your products and services, if the customer can receive them or not, and how good are you in it. Performance, you need to hire the right people and for the correct jobs. And of course, not everyone fits in the same position. Measurement, like Edward Deming, one of the persons who actually is considered the father of total quality management, said, "In God we trust, for the rest bring me numbers." So measurement is something which is very important, because if you can't measure, you can't manage. And another person actually once said that if you can quantify whatever you're saying, you have some knowledge of what you're saying. If you can't quantify what you're saying, your knowledge is meager. Now, coming to Lean Six Sigma, what Lean Six Sigma is, and it's really important to understand what Lean Six Sigma is, and sometimes it's also important to understand what Lean Six Sigma is not. Like Lean Six Sigma is a synthesizing agent of a business performance improvement, like an alloy, is the unification of proven tools, methodologies, and concepts which form a unique approach to deliver a rapid and sustainable cost reduction. This definition came from George 2010, and the Game Change is an organization where I got my Master of Black Belt from back in Bradford, England, and they define Lean Six Sigma as rigorous adherence to proven methodologies, tools, and techniques that will enable leader to confidently solve process problems using data-driven approaches that the problems stay solved. Now, another important thing is that we need to actually also understand what Lean Six Sigma is not. Now, Lean Six Sigma is not a magic wand that you just use Lean Six Sigma and every problem is solved. In Lean Six Sigma, there needs to be a reasonable justification for using it. You will not use all of Lean Six Sigma or all the phases of Lean Six Sigma if you already know the solution. You generally use it when the magnitude is big, it directly is hurting the company, and it's unknown. Then you'll be using Lean Six Sigma. So now, Lean Six Sigma can help organizations achieve quantifying improvements. By how? By creating a sustainable quality culture, by bringing clarity to invisible processes and enhancing control. Now, not all processes which we think we have exist. I mean, in our documented form, there are a lot of things which are in our organization which we don't even know that they are processes, because we might not have that type of insight of our own organization. Providing a corporate strategy for differentiation, becoming world-class service or product provider at the lowest cost, providing customers with what they value, reducing hidden costs associated with poor quality products, disproving perception that Lean Six Sigma applies only in manufacturing. And by the way, even in a manufacturing organization, majority of the processes are transactional in nature. So from a process point of view, the service industry also has a transactional process. 7 things that must be to develop yourself into a lean leader. You understand that lean leaders are both born and made. Expect some degree of failure. Shift your mindset from training to developing yourself and others. Make leadership development an objective, measurable process. Empowers empower others to lead, build a culture that encourages lean leaders to flourish, realize that your system of leadership at every level is a competitive advantage. Now, one thing which we actually always talk about in Lean Six Sigma is, and it's practically that's the way things are, whenever you have a problem, you should go to Gamba. And Gamba is basically the place where the work is being done. So unless you go to the place where the work is being done, your observation would not be as good as it should be. And the people who are actually doing the work are the ones who know better what they're doing than someone actually looking at it from a distance. Now, the strategic imperative in investing in Lean Six Sigma, in businesses, a significant investment in equipment may be required to improve labor productivity. However, when we're talking about the service industry, it's human intensive, it's not capital intensive. And the return on invested capital equation can be increased without increasing financial investment by applying Lean Six Sigma. And there's an example about Lockheed Martin, and Lockheed Martin is a company who actually makes F-16s. And the procurement center, for example, the team investment, they realized that they could reduce 50% of the production cost and they got a 5-month payback from whatever they invested. Now, there's another thing which I would like to talk about, key principles of Lean Six Sigma. It's about focusing on the customer, identifying and understanding how the work gets done, manage, improve the smooth the process flow. You have to manage it, improve it, and smoothen it. Remove non-value added steps and waste, manage by fact and reduce variation, involve, equip people in the process, undertake improvement activity in a systematic way. Less is usually more. Tackle problems in bite-sized chunks. Never jump to conclusions or solutions without knowing the facts. So you're focusing on the customer, you're understanding how the work gets done, you're managing and smoothing your process flow so that the flow is fast and clear. You remove the non-value added tasks, you manage by facts and reduce variation, because whenever the variation is reduced, the experience would be similar. And you involve and equip people in the process and take improvement activity in a systematic way. And the reason why we're saying that less is usually more is because the less complex your process would be, the better it would eventually become. And now they are basically, generally in the literature, it's called that there are 8 wastes. But some practitioners have come up with the 9th waste. And that 9th waste is behavior. And bad behavior is a wastage. Bob Emiliani, who is a practitioner and an academic, he believes that without respect for people, you're not even doing real lean. It's something else. And that's a basic. If you don't behave properly with the people who you work for and with your colleagues or with your subordinates, they will never tell you the real picture. And when they will not tell you the real picture, your analysis would be based on a wrong premise. And when your analysis is based on the wrong premise, everything you have done, no matter how scientific you do, if the data which you're using does not have data integrity, obviously you would not have the right analysis because your data is wrong from the very beginning. So behavior is very important. Now, I will also talk about some laws of Lean Six Sigma. And by the way, if anyone wants, I can actually give the references which I've quoted. Like nearly every slide of mine has come from a different book because I developed my own training out of 52 unique books. And this is just a brief of it. Now, law of the market. Now, customer, we need to understand that the customer defines quality and the highest priority for improvement. And we cannot sustain revenue growth without understanding that the customer defines quality. Law of flexibility. The speed of any process is proportional to its flexibility. How easily can you switch from one task to another? Law of focus. The data shows that 20% of the activities in a process causes 80% of the problems and delays. So you make the most progress if you focus on the effort on those 20%. And this is also the Pareto principle and can be a time trap. Law of velocity, Little's law. The spread of any process is inversely related to the amount of work in progress. So whenever the work in progress goes up, the speed goes down. And when work in progress goes down, a process speed goes up. Law of complexity and cost. The more complex or service or product you're offering adds more costs and work in progress. That it's going to result into either poor quality or slow speed. That's the law. Now, law of Lean Six Sigma. Now, the organization, there are certain skill sets. 30% of your employees, if you want to have an ideal situation according to Shafi and Shabazi, 30% need to be green belts, 1% need to be black belts, and one per business user needs to be, one per business unit needs to be a master black belt. Now, unfortunately, in our country, Pakistan, and in many places, you don't have too many master black belts. At the moment, I think there are 5 in Pakistan, and maybe some Pakistanis who are outside of Pakistan who are master black belts. That's besides the fight. Now, technical competency levels. A yellow belt is an individual who has been trained to perform as a member of Six Sigma teams. They are used to collect data, participate in problem solving, and assist in the implementation of the individual improvement activities. Green belts are individuals who have completed Six Sigma training, are capable of serving Lean Six Sigma project teams, and managing the simple Six Sigma projects. Black belt is an individual who has had advanced training with specific emphasis on statistical applications and problem-solving techniques. These individuals are highly competent to serve on-site consultants and trainers for application of Lean Six Sigma methodologies. And a master black belt is basically an individual who has had extensive experience in applying Lean Six Sigma and who has mastered the Six Sigma methodology. And in addition, these individuals are capable of teaching Six Sigma methodologies to all level of personals, deal with the executive management in the coaching them on culture change within the organization. So basically, a master black belt is a black belt who has slightly more experience and slightly more training and has the flavor of change management within that person too, because that person is supposed to be the one who is dealing with the top management and the stakeholders. So that's the technical competency. Now, something really, really important, which I have learned after reading so many books and observing, and I would say interacting with different people within the Lean Six Sigma arena. First of all, the CEO would go and find a sensei. Sensei is called instructor. Sensei is called someone who teaches you, or a guru. And a CEO would first go and experiment. He would experiment by attending different workshops and projects, and at some point look for and find a sensei whom they can work with. Then they accept the exercises a sensei prescribes. Although some of the tasks seem counterintuitive to the CEO, or they do not relate easily to what is being prescribed, they agree and explore and find out. So first you have to find a guru, a sensei, then as the CEO agrees to whatever the sensei is saying. And then the third part is they commit explicitly to learning for themselves and their teams. And they look beyond immediate results from Kaizen initiatives, and they look for learning. So first, if those companies which had successful Lean Six Sigma programs, the CEOs had three traits, and this is a research which spanned 20 years. There were different aspects of the CEO, which were, but there were three things which were very common. First, they would go out, keep on going to attending workshops, keep on meeting people and finding a guru, a sensei. Then they would accept whatever the sensei is prescribing. Even when whatever the sensei is prescribing seemed counterintuitive, they would still explore it. Then they would explicitly create a learning environment for themselves and their teams. Now, leadership does not happen in isolation. A learning organization is not only when the top people learn. The learning organization is when everyone in the organization learns. And Lean Six Sigma is a very engaging and inclusive methodology. Yes, it does have certain complex things for which you need to have black belts, green belts, yellow belts, and master black belts. But at the same time, every person needs to be involved. And that's why there needs to be a learning environment. And that's also why we say that we need to have respect for people. So now these three things were common. And this is a research which was done for 20 years. And it is in a book written by Balle, Jones, Chaize, and Fiume in 2017. Now, we're coming back to one thing and the main point, which is the matrix for a new Lean Six Sigma initiative. If you have a proper Lean Six Sigma initiative, it would be the same as the matrix would be the same as organizational effectiveness. If you have a hodgepodge one, then obviously it's going to be in bits and pieces, then it would not be the same as organizational effectiveness. So if you want to achieve organizational effectiveness, which is how successful an organization is reaching their goals, which is the efficiency of an organization, group, or company to meet its goals. So if you want to achieve, if you have a full-fledged Lean Six Sigma program in which you eventually develop these structures and these competencies, have respect for people, and you have these traits, if the CEO has these traits, find a sensei, accept the exercises the sensei prescribed, commit explicitly to learning, then there is a high chance that what we are looking for, and for any organizational effectiveness, it's all about what is your return on investment? What is your return on capital? What is your profitability? If you do a proper Lean Six Sigma initiative and it is aligned the way it is supposed to be with the rest of the organization and with the main organizational goals, then you would get the results you want. Like when Jack Welch had a proper Lean Six Sigma initiative, General Electric grew very well back in those days. If you do it hodgepodge, you do it, you don't have the right structure, or you're not ready to invest, you won't have it. Now, one thing which I have not talked about is that the steps which you do in Lean Six Sigma, because that's something very common. Nearly everyone would be talking to you about DMAC, define, measure, improve, analyze, control, define, measure, analyze, improve, control, define for Six Sigma. And that's something very common, and you could get it from any person. The reason I'm actually trying to give this is to share some of the researched things which I have. And these are part of my trainings too. And one thing which needs to be understood is that Lean Six Sigma is not only to improve existing systems and processes. Lean Six Sigma can also be used to create a new process or even a new product. For an existing process, we use define, DMAC, define, measure, analyze, improve, control. And for a new product or a new process, it's defined for Six Sigma. Tool like quality function deployment could be used. So, and another thing which is very important for any Lean Six Sigma initiative is, along with the core competency of Lean Six Sigma, we also need to understand that change management is also an important thing which the organization leaders and organization needs to be ready for. Otherwise, people would not be engaged and will not respond to Lean Six Sigma initiative properly. So one thing which I have seen difference between different training providers globally, and I'm not talking about Pakistan, I'm talking about globally, is that there is a curriculum which certain big organizations have, which is very technical. Then there's a curriculum which I have found with people who became master black belts or became black belts from General Electric in the early days. They have a different curriculum for their training, which is slightly different from the popular one. And the difference between that curriculum and the popular curriculum is that the General Electric curriculum includes change management as a basic thing which they teach to green belts, they teach to black belts and master black belts. While in the most popular curriculum, portions of change management only comes in master black belt. It does not even come in black belt. And I've read them all. So it's important that whenever you actually going for a Lean Six Sigma initiative, you also understand change management. Whenever you're training people for belt level competence, I would always prescribe you to also have change management competence, certain level of change management competence, because it is dealing with Lean Six Sigma is dealing with all types of people. It is dealing with people who are at the basic level, who are, let's say, if you're in a bank, the CSR, the teller. If you're in a manufacturing facility, you might be dealing with a laborer, you might be dealing with a supervisor. You would be dealing with different types of people. Some would be educated, some would not be educated. Some would be scared of you, and some would be actually really welcoming. That's exactly why a skill which is required, along with the understanding of statistics, along with the understanding of process techniques, is change management. Without those change management techniques, it's just like putting an engineer in a system where nothing is systematic at all. So I would start taking question answers a bit early. And if anyone wants to communicate with me, or they can actually always talk to Hassan, Perks HR, or they want to directly communicate with me, I am approachable, and TooseyAdvisoryServices.com is my website. I'm approachable on LinkedIn, Mohammad Ali Toosy. You Google check Mohammad Ali Toosy and this link, you would get it. I have a YouTube channel where I have different playlists of Lean Six Sigma and change management, and I'm on Facebook. I'm reasonably accessible on Facebook. Anyone can comment on my posts on Facebook. However, I have a limit to what I can accept as friends. But anyone can comment on my posts. They're usually very public. And I would welcome question and answers.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. We have a few feedbacks as well, but we will share those later on. You can read them in the chat as well. We have open floor for the question answers. Please raise hands, or maybe you can unmute the mic directly and you can ask questions.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. If you please allow me to ask a question, meanwhile the participant is unmuting. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, really appreciate this forum and this webinar and the opportunity. Just want to have a little more clarity with regards to the implication and the application of Six Sigma in the service industry and in service-oriented environment. As you know, with the latest advent and the dynamics, service has become the pivotal factor for many organizations when you compare the quality of service after sales. So just want to have a little more focus on the service and how we can implement this. If you have any thoughts on that, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Zafar. Thank you, Zafar. And interestingly, nearly most of my career has been with the service industry. I learned Lean Six Sigma while I was in Mobilink, and that was the first time I learned Lean Six Sigma properly. I became a black belt there. And the service industry also has, I mean, there's just like I talked, that even in a manufacturing organization, approximately 70% of the processes are actually transactional in nature. So the service and the service industry is also transactional in nature, the process. So just the complexity might be a bit more in the manufacturing industry, but when we look at a process, we look at different attributes, we look at different variables. For us, everything is a variable, whether it is in a service industry or whether it is in a machine. And for us, we actually dig down to the level of, to a very minute level of detail, and then assess using statistical tools and different experimentations how to fix it. So it has been used in the service industry. It has been used in the service industry in Pakistan. Within Pakistan, nearly all the telcos have used it at some point of time. There are some banks which has used it, and globally it has been used in government. It's been used in healthcare. It's been used in insurance. It's been used in the software industry, and you name it, it's been used everywhere, especially in the West. In the Middle East, yes, to an extent, it has been used in the service industry too. Some people like to say it's Lean Six Sigma, but they're just picking a few parts of it.
Any more questions?
I hope that.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, just a continuation. If it will be much more helpful if you can share briefly how the organization, the example, how they have implemented and what results. the point that I'm coming from is in a manufacturing or in an objective way, it's much more convenient to measure, but for service industry, it's quite complex, and you can say at times becomes confusing, because we are dealing with people with emotions, and everyone gets satisfied differently, right? So your thoughts on that? Thank you.
Okay, so all these emotions are variables for us to study, and I'll actually give you an example of the first project I did. It was the improving customer experience for the postpaid non-club customers within Mobilink. That's back in 2008. Now, at that time, first of all, we actually defined the project, what is the customer experience of the early customer experience of a postpaid non-club customer. Once we defined that, then we started measuring it. Once we started measuring it, we actually said, okay, the bare minimum, which we think is that if we have said that we are going to do something in a specific amount of time, we should at least do it in that time. That's the minimum. Okay. So then we actually said, let's actually compare between two data sets, one who have left us and one who have still stayed with us. And then we actually mapped all the customer experience which they had, at least which we had from our CRM. And we mapped it, what's the difference between the two sets, which left us and which stayed with us. Now, there was one point we dig down to one thing, and we digged it down, and we actually found out that we were very bad, or I would say we had a lot of improvement opportunity in the change of address process. It was terrible experience for those who left and those who stayed. But those who left us had a worse experience than it. Those who left had a worse experience. Like, there was one person who had to try to change his address 18 times. Now, that was obviously, it's not acceptable in the service industry. But so we found out that if the first thing we fix is the change of address process. So we started from a huge thing, which is the customer experience. We drilled down to change of address, one process. Then we drilled down to the reason why there was a breakdown in that process. Once we fixed that, obviously it had an overall impact within the customer experience, and that's how you do it in Lean Six Sigma. So it's basically data oriented and after experimenting. That was one of the examples. I can tell you another example which is not exactly customer experience, but this is another example of a bank. That particular bank had different set of approvals, and then they would have a meeting with the same people who have already approved that. Now, if everyone has already approved a certain thing, why are they meeting? And if that means 500 rupees per meeting, and it's happening more than 200,000 times a year, that's a huge amount of money. So you could actually reduce by reducing unnecessary steps, make things faster, and the customer experience would get better anyways, and the costs reduce too. Within a hospital, another example is that when we actually using tools, if we use a tool like a 5Y tool, which is one of the tools which we use, we don't go for the obvious. We try to dig down Y to the 5th level, and then try to fix the 5th level, which is contribution to the problem, instead of actually just putting the blame on someone else. Like we have a very common thing, which is called shoot the messenger. Instead of actually shooting the messenger or just putting it on a person who's actually saying that there's a problem, we would dig down and find out what is the reason. If a problem happened, why did that problem happen? And then why did that problem happen? And we keep on asking it, and we actually sometimes you can find out that a person was late in operation theater, and you could dig down, and the fifth why would be that you're not maintaining things properly, or your maintenance schedule wasn't updated. So in that way, you would go not to the, you would not try to fix the symptom, you would go to the root cause. And in such way, when we do projects like that, and we do improve our systems. And yes, emotions are a variable. And another thing is what I talked about was that it's not only about it's not only a Lean Six Sigma, it's not only about fixing an existing process. It's also about creating a new process or creating a new product. Now, whenever we are going to have this in a new product, there's a tool called quality function deployment. And in quality function deployment, what happens is that we look at design attributes and what type of problem is that design attribute going to solve. Now, if we are doing it for a service industry, the problem would be emotion. So we would have a certain attribute within our service which would cater that type of emotion. Obviously, and a part of my presentation was respect for people. It was about behavior, which is a waste. And most of the time, not all, wrong behavior is triggered, or the customer emotions are, I would say, disproportionately changed because of the behavior of any one person. Now, in Lean Six Sigma, we would not blame the person. We would blame the system. And we would try to find out why that person who is delivering the service behaved like that. And when we're talking about customer experience, and when we're talking about mapping the customer experience goes beyond the office. Like if a customer is entering my office, the first experience he's going to have is how did the security guard or the security officer treat him or her. So you could have a very fancy, you could have a huge, very fancy office, but if your security officer mistreats people at the gate, you've already damaged the customer experience is already being damaged. So the whole supply chain needs to be improved. The whole supply chain needs to be studied, not only the obvious. You need to actually go a few steps after what you're delivering and a few steps before you're delivering, because the customer cannot differentiate between that I bought this paper from XY company and this is not my paper, this is the company, a different company's paper. So I can't actually, I don't have control on that thing. No, when we are talking about customer experience, we need to actually look at it from a holistic perspective and measure it from a holistic perspective too.
Thank you.
And at the same
we have more questions to ask, so we cannot give more time to many of them. I hope you have already answered a few questions. So we have a question in chat from Samia as well. And Balle, I think your question has been answered by giving 2-3 real lifetime examples. Real life examples. Mohammad Ali Toosy has already answered that. So Samia asked question, what are the potential wastes that ought to be controlled? Number one. Second is, moreover, how the variables are reduced and what could be those variables? So these are two questions.
Okay.
Then we have a question from
Can I start answering the question?
Yes, you can start answering because
okay.
Zaka Avan has question as well.
Okay. The wastes, over processing is a waste. Moving around in the office unnecessary is a waste. Moving material unnecessary in the office is a waste. Waiting is a waste. Defects is a waste. Similarly, moving people, defects, behavior is a waste. So these are some examples of wastes in the organization. And anything, there's something called value added and there's something called non-value added. And then there's something called what we call necessary non-value added. The value added is the portion in which you are actually giving value or getting value. The non-value added is something which you can remove and it's not giving anything to the organization or the customer. And the necessary non-value added thing is something which needs to be there, is not adding value, but it needs to be there in order to give value. So the purely non-value added thing is something which you can immediately reduce. And there is always going to be a specific amount of wastage anyways. Like if we have muscles and our muscles have fat on them. So if the value is the muscle, the fat is the necessary non-value added part in a body. Like we have ligaments and then we have fat. Without fat and without ligaments, your muscles can't operate. So just like that, in an organization, there would be always certain things which you have to do, even if they don't add value. But there are a lot of things which you could actually reduce. You can reduce fat in your body, you could, and still function. But similarly, in the organization, there would be different types of non-value added activities, excessive meetings. It could be unnecessary inventory. It could be work in progress. It could be many things. So what's the next question? What was the next question after this?
The next question was moreover how the variables are reduced and what could be those variables.
Okay, now the variables are obviously be dependent on whatever system we are looking at. Every process, every system, you can call it variable 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But there is no preconceived. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The variables are predefined. The variables are dependent on the process. So you can't predefine them. Every organization would have different variables. Every situation would have different variables. Every industry would have different variables. Now the question is, how do you reduce the variables? And that's a very valid question. Once you have all the variables, you measure it in a sample. You take a sample and measure those variables. And then once you measure those variables, you come and you find out what are the most significant variable. And once you even see, once you know that these are the significant ones, you would actually then do some statistical tests to find out if it is the true representative of the population. And if it's the true representation of the population, then you would go and fix the variables which are which is on the highest level and significant. And there is a possibility that you find out a variable which might be there, but is not contributing to the problem. You also need to understand whether, when we are analyzing, would that variable be contributing to the problem or not? Once we have determined, is it contributing to the problem, which is contributing the most? I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Mohammad Ali Toosy. There is another question from Zaka Awan, and that is, who is the most authentic body in the world which is giving certification in Six Sigma?
Okay, the most authentic.
Yes.
Now, Lean Six Sigma is basically, it started with Motorola, and General Electric took it to the next step. And Motorola did not patent it. So there is no one central body which we can say that truly represents Lean Six Sigma. Now, the question is, which is the most reliable, or which is the most known? It goes back to the Americans, and it's American Society for Quality. That's the most well-known organization. Now, there's another thing which comes, and I do sometimes think about it and try to find out the validity of the notion that ASQ, American Society for Quality, is the most authentic. We have an organization which was developed by Mike Harry. Mike Harry was one of the people who developed Lean Six Sigma. So now the question is whether his organization is more authentic or American Society for Quality is more authentic. Mike Harry is dead now, but before dying, he created an organization and he had the belts. So obviously, and then, they have their own curriculum, their own way. Then there is certain people who have, like Lean Six Sigma was popularized by General Electric. The curriculum which the people who have studied from General Electric or have become green belt, black belt, and master black belt from General Electric is different from what ASQ is prescribing. So this is an answer which has no definitive answer. University of Oxford also gives training and certification. University of Southern California, Purdue also does it. We used to do it from American Society for Quality, Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. I've been delivering Lean Six Sigma trainings and certifications from their platform. And there are so many. So, and to the extent that in Greece, it's done in Greek, in Spain, it's done in Spanish. Now, obviously, the popular ones only do it in English. So that's always a question. There's always going to be a question, which is the most acceptable, which is the best, I'm not sure, which is the most popular. American Society for Quality is more popular. But there are other organizations which are reasonably popular too.
Right.
I hope that answers the question.
For your question, for your answer, Mohammad Ali Toosy. And anybody has any questions? Anyone else that wants to ask question? I believe no. So I think that this answered and conclude our today's session. We are already on time as well. And I believe that it addresses about the organizational effectiveness and the value of teams and how to actually remove the variable parts of the organization from it. We have some one question, I think, from Aisha Chowdhury. Given the abundance of info, Lean Six Sigma out there, very briefly, what are the most commonly used tools to measure organizational or process effectiveness? If you can answer that, then we will conclude it.
It's basically, you use tools. There's a set of tools which is in Lean Six Sigma. Every process would not be using every tool. So it is all depending, it's all dependent on how the process is, what type of data you have. So there's no definitive answer to that question. Every process would be unique. But it is important to use the right tool for the right process. It's just using the tool regardless of whether it should be done. there are certain tests. If you have a normal distribution, there are certain tests. If you have a non-normal data, there are different tests. And if you do non-normal on normal data or normal data tests on non-normal data tests, you'll be doing something wrong. So it's important to actually use the right tools for the right process. And the answer to this is going to be different for every single process. And the reason why you need to have a person, a black belt or a green belt, is that the person needs to have a significant knowledge of the tools in order to be able to suggest which tool is applicable.
Right. Thank you very much, Mohammad Ali Toosy, and thank you to our lovely audience who have always supported us on these webinars. We are trying to bring more and more coaches to our platform, and we are trying to introduce many more topics to this platform so that people can learn, and at the same time, people can actually go and the social entrepreneurship concept. In that concept, people should also go and spread the knowledge out there in the market, and upbring our youth as well. Secondly, Mohammad Ali Toosy has been so kind to us always, and into this collaboration for a long time now, and he has been working with us on the change management as well, and he is a trainer of change management. Who is actually willing to join us for any coaching to the audience, and who has something that can help to the society, we would like to bring them on board. From this session, thank you very much, everyone. We have a few feedbacks as well, Mohammad Ali Toosy. We will be sharing with you offline. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for taking time out to teach us how to make our organization so effective. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
So, anything anybody else wants to say, or we will be going offline now? Sure, Maksud, we will definitely try to keep it regular, as well as we will be sometimes off as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Allah Hafiz.
Allah.